Greetings, fellow advocates, agitators, and allies. My name is Chenthuran Jayachandiran, and my preferred pronouns are he, him, his. I serve as the director of the Cultural Center and Spiritual Life at the University of Denver, and I'm incredibly humbled and honored to have the chance to speak to you. Today, I speak to you as a resident of this country and a citizen of the world. We live in extraordinary times, and thus it calls for extraordinary action. This is a moment of extraordinary pain for many of us who hold minoritized identities. But it is also a time of opportunity. For the first time in the 20 years I've been in this country, I am witnessing a time when it is better to be a person calling out racism, sexism, or ableism than it is to be the person who is racist, sexist, or ableist. For the first time in a long time, there is a space for righteous anger, and there is momentum for change. Like many who are gathered here, belonging and mattering has been a lifelong pursuit for me. I was born into the minority ethnicity in Sri Lanka at the start of a civil war. The seeds of that civil war were planted by colonizing British many decades earlier. By privileging the Tamil minority for their own political purposes, they cultivated a hatred and anger amongst the majority population that would soon erupt into a civil war. Over the next 30 years, that war would claim hundreds of thousands of lives and leave me on the shores of the United States. Whereas in Sri Lanka, I adopted the majority language simply to survive, in the United States, I adopted English so that I could thrive. Having never felt like I belonged in my own country, I looked forward to belonging in my adopted country. But the truth is, nowhere have I been more aware of my skin color than here in the United States. The harm of colonizing forces isn't just about our histories. It is about our present and our future. It is about creating hierarchies of who belongs in places of power and decision making. Trying to simply erase or hide the sins of colonialism and slavery never work. There is too much hurt, too much anger, and too much pride to suppress. Acknowledging the past and repairing the harm are necessary first steps to creating spaces and institutions that truly value those who are pushed to the margins. So this struggle is about disrupting dominant ideologies, rules of operation that normalize some while pushing others to the margin. This struggle is about upending ways of thinking that are rooted in colonialism. Our struggle is one that is righteous, but it is not just our struggle. It is yours too. So hear me when I say this. If you are white, our anger isn't at you. Our anger is at whiteness as an ideology that privileges those with white skin as better than our black and brown siblings. Our anger is at whiteness as an ideology that denies people access to health, wellness, education, and opportunity simply because of the color of their skin. If you are male, our anger isn't at you. It is at the system that pays women 81 cents for every dollar a man makes, and even less if you are non-binary. Our struggle is with a system that values the work of men and undervalues the work of everyone else. If you are gender conforming, our anger isn't at you. Our anger is at a system of belief that says sex is binary and dehumanizes those who don't conform to that belief. Our anger is at a system that shames them into the shadows and denies them the rights and protections afforded to others. If you are normatively able-bodied and able-minded, our anger isn't at you. Our anger is at institutions that make it hard for those who move, think, or learn differently to succeed in their chosen paths. Our anger is at institutions that still hang on to aging laws as a defense of status quo. If you are proud students or alumni of the University of Denver who find comfort in the pioneer name, our anger isn't at you. Our struggle is with a name that belies the history of peoples who were the original inhabitants of this land. Our struggle is with the future that seeks to erase the history of an entire people. If you are American born, our fight isn't with you. Our fight is with a government that dishonors the promise of America as a safe haven for those who seek refuge from persecution and poverty. If you are independently wealthy, I do not envy you or begrudge your wealth. My disagreement is with a system that allows people with wealth to lay claim to what is considered truth and use that wealth to rewrite history and define the future for all of us. Even if you are a law enforcement officer who serves their community with care and compassion, my struggle isn't with you. My struggle is with a system of policing that preys on the fears and biases of these law officers to make you see black and brown lives as mattering less. My struggle is with a system that criminalizes mental health and poverty and houselessness. So hear me when I say this. If you are white, male, gender conforming, normatively able-bodied and able-minded, American born, a member of the DU community, independently wealthy, and yes, even if you are a law enforcement officer, there is space for you in this struggle. There is space for you in this struggle, and that space is right next to us when we speak truth to power, amplifying our voices so that every corner of this globe awakes to the promise of our future. There is space for you in this struggle, and that space is in front of us, throwing open the doors to the corridors of power where decisions are made about our lives and our rights. That space is in front of us when our bodies are ravaged with violence and threats. There is space for you in this struggle, and that space is behind us, reminding us we are not alone, lifting us up when we are weary and wounded, reassuring us that we can rest with confidence, knowing that our struggle will continue. There is space for you in this struggle, and that space is at the voting booth, knowing that your vote is more powerful when it is cast in the service of more than just your needs. Know that your vote is most powerful when it is cast in service of millions of people whose rights and lives are at stake. There is space for you in this struggle, in peace, in power, and in solidarity. Thank you.